I'll tell you what, if you're battling weeds in your garden and you talk to somebody and they tell you that they don't have weed problems, well, I think they're lying. I've just been weeding out our fall bean bed, and I'll tell you what, they look incredible. We planted these beans about 3 weeks ago, and a lot of you wanted to know kind of what they looked like so that you kind of get an update, and also just kind of get inspired to plant more fall things. And so in today's episode, that's what we're going to talk about. I just got this bed all weeded out, and I'll tell you what, these beans look good. I'm really excited about it. We've got the Blue Lake bush bean, we've got the strike bean, we have the purple wonder bean, and then we also have the provider bean. So with that being said, let's jump on over and talk about some other varieties that we're going to be planting now and in the next couple weeks to get ready for fall. I'll tell you what, these fall planting of cucumbers could not look better. Now we planted these about 4 weeks ago. Here in Michigan, you definitely could not get by with planting cucumbers unless, of course, you have like some overhead protection like a hoop house or a high tunnel. Then you could probably get by with planting cucumbers, but if you're just planting out in the garden, it's a little too late for that. However, if you're further south or if you live in a place that has about 60 to 65 days until your first frost, give cucumbers a try. Now, I want to get into some stuff that if you're here in Michigan and you're like me, you do have time to plant. And if you're further south and it's a little bit warmer for you still, you're going to be just a few weeks behind us. So maybe stagger out your planting a little bit or just wait a few weeks and you're going to be fine. So I got all my seeds right here. We're going to be planting and not planting all of them today, obviously, but I'm going to go through them so you guys can get some good ideas. The first one is Swiss chard. Now, Swiss chard is a crop that we grow basically year round. It is it's a heat tolerant crop, I should say, but it also tolerates very cold weather. It often overwinters almost no problem at all with no protection right in our garden. So we got some Swiss chard. We got some kohlrabi. Now, kohlrabi is another great crop. It's better when it's young, and so it matures in about 45 to 50 days. It's kind of similar to like, almost like cabbage, but really sweet. And it's kind of I don't really know how to describe it. It's like an alien vegetable, and it's awesome. So we've got some kohlrabi, and there's plenty of time to grow that this year, because even though we're gonna get a frost probably before we harvest the kohlrabi, the frost will actually make it sweeter because the sugars are condensed in the leaves and it ends up making it sweeter. It's the plant's mechanism to survive cold weather. We've got turnips. Now I love growing turnips. Turnips are a great crop to grow, especially right now, because they can tolerate the really cold weather, but also they're a root crop that if we don't harvest them all before the snow flies, what we'll do is we'll take a big pile of leaves and we'll just basically bury them right in the garden. And the leaves will insulate the soil, keep it thawed, so that come Christmas time, we can dig them out and throw them right in the crock pot and have some turnips and some nice root vegetables that just kind of warms the body in the winter. So it makes your garden basically like a living root cellar. The next one is peas. Now peas are pretty susceptible to burning if it gets hot. And so if you have weather like us, we're still going to be kind of touching the 80s, you're going to want to wait. We're not going to be planting peas anytime soon. I'm going to wait until the daytime temperatures get into about the low 70s. Once the daytime temperatures are in the low 70s and the nighttime temperatures are kind of in like the upper 40s, low 50s, that's the ideal time to grow peas. And so we're going to be waiting on these maybe about 2 more weeks or so, and those are going to go in the ground. Arugula. We're going to be planting arugula. I actually have some arugula here that I seeded for. I seeded that for kind of a late summer, early fall harvest. That's coming up great. Looks absolutely beautiful. I'll tell you what, I absolutely love the taste of arugula. It's peppery, it's sweet, it's kind of buttery. It's an amazing green. If you haven't tried it, you got to give it a shot. But arugula is another crop that loves the cold weather. It can tolerate some heat. It doesn't love it, but it can survive into winter no problem. And it'll even kind of regrow in the spring because it basically just sits dormant underneath the snow. Next one is some kale. Now we already have a lot of kale, but we're going to be growing some more kale. The reason why is because kale is such a versatile crop. You can grow it all through summer and even into winter. And the nice thing is if you grow it right now, it's not going to do a ton of growing throughout winter, but it will survive. And in the spring, it comes out of dormancy. It basically just continues to grow. And it's not only gonna go to seed the second year, so you can save your own seed, but also you're gonna get an early crop of, of spring greens that nobody in your neighborhood is going to have. So unless of course they know this trick, but I like to get it up and growing so that it can survive through the winter and kind of just sit there. And if I wanna pick some, I can pick some, but I basically just let it sit throughout winter, and then in the spring, then I start harvesting again. It's a great crop to grow. Spinach. Now I've got two different varieties. I got American and the Bloomsdale Longstanding. Two awesome varieties of spinach. We're actually gonna be waiting about 2 weeks to plant those as well. About the same time you're planting your peas, you're gonna wanna plant your spinach. It's just a little too warm. Spinach doesn't like much weather in the 70s. It'll start to go to seed. So we're gonna wait on that. We're gonna be growing some lettuce. I got some Paris Island Cost lettuce. I've got some Ruby Red lettuce. I've got some Great Lakes Crisp Head lettuce. I've got seeds on the ground. I've got seeds on the ground. Let's see here. I've also got, I think that's it for lettuce actually. Yeah. Okay. Yep, that's it for lettuce. But I'm also, in my hand, I'm also gonna be growing some Tango lettuce. Those varieties of lettuce do fantastic in cold weather, but they're also gonna be growing through some warm weather. So we're gonna be starting those actually probably tomorrow. We're gonna throw those in one of our empty beds, and we're gonna start to get our lettuce growing. Now we will succession sow it, because succession sowing is a wonderful way to not have all of your harvest all at once. And since we still have about 50 days until our first frost, I wanna make sure that I'm not getting all my lettuce all at once. And so in order to make sure that happens, we're only gonna plant out about 2 rows of lettuce about every 3 days. So I'm gonna plant out 2 rows of lettuce, wait 3 days. Plant 2 rows of lettuce, wait 3 days. By the time the first row is basically ready to harvest, the very last row that we sow is going to be just basically germinating. So it's a great way to plant out a bed of lettuce without having everything come up all at once and be ready to harvest all at once. Because I love salads, but even I can't eat that much lettuce. So just a quick little tip for you guys to kind of manage your harvest versus waste. Then we're gonna be growing some beets. Now beets are a fantastic fall crop. You've gotta give them a shot. If you've never tried fall beets, they get so unbelievably sweet. Now I will say, they're not going to get quite as large as main season beets, and that's because the season is shorter. The longer you leave beets in the ground, yes, they can get a little bit woody, but they also get bigger. So these, I have a Detroit Golden Detroit beet, I have a Ruby Queen beet, and a Bull's Blood beet. Those are the ones we're growing. We kind of just pick 3 random ones. They're all amazing, but we're gonna be getting like golf ball sized beets. We're not gonna be getting like baseball sized beets because we're not growing them for nearly as long. But also, the beet greens are fantastic. So even if we don't end up getting a huge beet harvest, the beet greens are a super versatile green that is great whether it's juiced or thrown in smoothies or even salads. So give those a shot, and don't forget about beets. We also got some mustards. So we got giant red mustard and tatsoi. Again, all mustards are amazing. They're best when harvested young and tender. And so we're gonna be waiting about 2 weeks to plant our mustard greens as well. The same time we're planting our spinach and our peas, we're also gonna plant our mustards. And that way, they're nice and sweet, they're nice and young and tender, so they're not super peppery, because a lot of people like them peppery. I'm not a huge fan of peppery mustard. Then we also have radishes. Now we're gonna be waiting probably about 3 to 4 weeks to plant our radishes. And that's because radishes only take about 25 days to fully mature. And so we have some lady slipper radish, some hailstone radish, some cherry bell radish. We got white icicle radish. We got German giant radish. We got French breakfast radish. I love growing radishes in the fall because in the spring, we never get to enjoy them. They just it gets way too hot, way too soon, and the radishes end up getting really woody and going to seed fast. Not only are they super cold hardy, but they're gonna grow way longer, and we are going to stagger harvest them just like we do our lettuce. So about every 3 days, we're gonna plant 2 rows. And that way, by the time we're done planting out our bed, we're gonna be harvesting we will have already begun harvesting for about 2 or 3 weeks. So it's a great way to grow a lot of radishes, but not end up harvesting them all at once. And if it gets cold, they'll survive just fine. Then finally, We've got here 2 more. I've got a another purple kohlrabi and a feathered frills kale. Love growing this kale. It's a very cold hardy variety of kale, but any kale is going to do great. Lacinato kale, red Russian kale, they all do fantastic. But these are just the ones that I chose for our garden. And also we have a lot of lacinato growing in our garden already. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I really do hope that you try some of these varieties in your fall garden. I know a lot of people, like, they grow their tomatoes, they grow their cucumbers. After, when school starts, basically, the garden gets pulled out. And I can't tell you how much you're missing out on. Fall gardening for us is a time for us to not only take advantage of a wonderful season when food can grow, but it also allows us to grow food that we wouldn't otherwise be able to grow in the spring. And so it keeps our garden more well-rounded, helps us save a ton of money, and puts higher quality food on our table. So give it a shot. I guarantee you, you won't regret it. So other things to consider is things like cilantro, great crop to grow. We already have some cilantro growing actually over on our herb bed. So we're not gonna be planting any more of that right now, but it loves the cool weather. Things like carrots, if you've got about 55 to 60 days, right now we're kind of on that fringe where it's just a tad bit too late for us to plant carrots. And then also the final thing to consider is things like broccoli and cabbage. So broccoli and cabbage, we already have some broccoli started. We already have some fall cabbage started. But if you're planting them right now, it's gonna be kind of tricky. You can plant another variety of broccoli known as a sprouting broccoli or a spring rapini. That's a fantastic variety to grow. It's gonna do very well for you. And you can definitely grow that even right now, right here in Michigan. But if you wanna grow a more larger heading variety of broccoli, like a Waltham broccoli or like a Copenhagen market cabbage, things like that, those you wanna start about 55 to 65 days before your first frost. So if you're somewhere where it's a little bit warmer, start them right now. Start them absolutely right now so you don't miss out, because fall cabbage is amazing. And because they're so cold hardy, they're gonna be able to survive through that first frost. And because if a plant can survive through that first frost, it's gonna make them way sweeter. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you all learned something new. I hope you get excited about gardening and wanna plant a fall garden. Let me know what you're planting in the comments box down below. Really excited to see what you're growing. And if you're interested in getting any of these seeds, we do still have a ton available over at MIgardener.com. You can check it out, see what's available, and get some stuff for your fall garden. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Hopefully you all learned something new. And as always, this is Luke from the MIgardener channel reminding you to grow big or go home. We'll catch you guys later. See ya. Bye.